away for much longer than 18 minutes. Hank was nowhere to be seen. But he also knew he couldn't just leave his friend out there all by himself. He began a cove he'd never been in before. There was a scary old rusty wreck floating nearby. It seemed more like a cave than a cove. Who's there? Said Theodore softly. But there was no reply. The sun almost disappeared from the sky. From that sound, they were both heading for the narrow channel. They were going at top speed away from whatever that awful thing was in the dark and scary cove. They were going as fast as they could, and that rattled Hank's lifeboat free from its place. Off it fell, right into the water. But neither tugboat noticed. Now the work of the big harbor must be done, George or no George. Theodore, Emily, and Foduck followed Pearl out to a cove where there was a big old rusty wreck for them to move. The tugboats buttoned on, with Pearl leading the way. Theodore called, "This is a very big rusty wreck. Where are we taking him?" Emily knew. "Way over to dock number 9. Dock number 9. That was where George was hiding. But, stammered Theodore. "That dock is already full. The dispatcher wants us to jam this old rusty wreck in, too," called Emily. Foduck noticed that Theodore looked very worried. "Oh, it's only scrap, Theodore," said Foduck. "It doesn't matter if it gets all scrunched up." Well, Theodore felt dizzy. It was George who was going to get scrunched. What should he do? We're approaching dock number 9. Emily noticed that Theodore seemed very quiet. "What's the matter, Theodore?" she asked. Theodore didn't really know what to say. "Emily, do you think it's important for a friend to keep a secret?" "Sure," replied Emily. "If someone told my secrets, I wouldn't be their friend." Theodore was confused. "But what if someone got in trouble, or even got hurt, just because you kept their secret?" Theodore was startled by Pearl's voice, ordering the tugs to jam the old rusty wreck into the dock. George would be mushed. So instead of pushing like he was supposed to, Theodore secretly pulled. Foduck and Emily were pushing away with all their might. The old rusty wreck. Emily and Foduck stopped pushing right away, very surprised. Then everyone heard a small voice from the back of old dock number 9. All the tugs were quiet. Finally, Theodore spoke up. "I'm sorry for telling your secret, George." "Well, why were you hiding in there anyway, George?" asked Foduck, who was always very curious. Foduck and Emily still looked puzzled. George gathered his courage and went on, now that he had told his friends his big secret. "George," said Theodore, using his most helpful voice, "if you want, we can all go with you." The other tugs kept wondering, what was he going to do? He tied his towing rope all around the rusty old ship. Then he gave the rope a great yank. It was so heavy, George's tow rope snapped as if it were a single strand of string, and the wreck sank with a sinking sound. "It looks like a big old shipwreck is down there," he said. But she couldn't. It was simply too big. As a matter of fact, all the tugs were thinking, now that their plans were so big, how would they ever get them done and win the contest?